What's going on, everybody? It's that time again. It's a Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 44 on this Monday, December 18th, 2023. Josh Callaway, Tom Green with you on a Monday, 1 week till Christmas. Lots of stuff going on the team side of things. Again, Oklahoma active in the transfer portal. Key players are coming back next season. A key commit was picked up. The basketball team keeps winning. They're inside the top 10 in the AP poll. Lots to talk about, lots to get into, Tom, on a Monday. But let's start, as we have a lot on these shows as of late, with the transfer portal. Kind of thought that maybe we wouldn't have much to get into on this episode, finally, maybe in the portal world of things. Never mind. Bauer Sharp had other ideas just about an hour and a half or so ago before we started recording. Bauer Sharp came aboard, Oklahoma back into the portal with their fifth commitment, tight end from southeastern Louisiana, if you're unfamiliar. Really highly thought of at the FCS level. I know a lot of fans will probably think like southeastern Louisiana, but this guy, productive down there, the number 3 Pro Football Focus graded tight end at the FCS level. Tom, obviously they needed a tight end. That goes without saying. The position was a disappointment this year. Austin Stogner didn't have the season that they were hoping for. They just didn't have much production at all, quite frankly, from that group. You needed to get a guy. You got a guy with Bauer Sharp. We'll see what he can actually provide when he gets here, but at the very least, you've added someone who's played college football, who's been productive, and can be an option for you whenever next season rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it at no end this season. Just the tight end group was the weak link of this, not just the offense, but this football team. It felt like they just weren't getting the production that they thought they were going to get out of Austin Stogner, bringing him back. Injuries at other spots in the room. So, they needed to address this position this offseason. And obviously they have, Devon Mitchell coming in with a 2024 class. He's, really thought of, really highly thought of,
right.
NFL type guy potential. But they needed another body in there. They needed someone who has some experience. And look, Bauer Sharp, like you said, some fans are probably going to roll their eyes or scoff at this because he's making the move from the FCS to an SEC program. But the guys who, evaluate these type of players, they think really highly of him. He had 29 receptions, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns at Southeastern Louisiana this season in an offense that is very run-centric. So you kind of put those numbers into context. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy who he started his career as a quarterback before converting to tight end. So he's got that kind of high football IQ and kind of understanding of how other positions around him work. So he's been making that transition, and, people feel like he has a really high ceiling. I think, looking at him, watching some of his highlights and just, his build, and obviously the fact that he used to be a quarterback and is now a tight end, Oklahoma fans are probably going to, get some flashes of Blake Bell in there. I wouldn't be, it's way early. We don't know what all the tweaks that Seth Luttrell is going to make to this offense are, but, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him, kind of take over that, Jackson Arnold short yardage, Wildcat type situation near the goal line as a possibility, because it's something that he did at Southeastern Louisiana. But I like this pickup for Oklahoma. Again, it's not one that's going to jump off the page, but they needed some experience at tight end, and to bring in a guy who's got multiple years of eligibility left, who is, got a pretty high ceiling, and can come in and learn under, Joe John Finley, kind of help lead that room as they kind of make the transition. And I think this, the tight end position, in my opinion, I think is going to be utilized a little bit differently moving forward, just because of, Seth Luttrell's background as an H-back, Joe John Finley being co-offensive coordinator. I think there's going to be a little bit more emphasis on how they use those tight ends, probably see some more two tight end sets. So it's definitely a position that they needed to address, and it just kind of goes in line with what their approach has been in the portal in getting, addressing positions of need.
Yeah, they needed a tight end, like I kind of said off the top. And I was as critical of the tight end group probably as anyone, last season. I really thought coming in, hand up, that All-Star was going to be good, and that wasn't going to be that much of a drop-off from what we saw Braden Willis do the year before. It didn't work out that way. We talked about it all season long. It just was never really an option. We almost kind of stopped talking about it, frankly, in the last part of the year, because it was just, okay, that's just what the tight end group is going to be. It's just a position that simply wasn't going to be that much of a strength for Oklahoma when it usually is. I think it's in a lot better place now. I mean, you talk about bringing Bauer Sharp in. Obviously, Devon Mitchell comes aboard, who I think the world of. I mean, going to be future NFL player by my estimation. That guy's a freak of nature. If you've ever seen him, you don't need to see him play. Just watch him walk around. When he's visiting at games, he's just does not look like a high school kid. He's reclassifying a year early. He's going to be technically a high school senior in terms of age next year, so you probably don't want to lean on him too much. But if anybody can handle it, it would be him. You got Sharp, you got Mitchell, you get Caden Helms healthy. He missed this whole year. He probably would have factored in this year if he had been able to be on the field. He just never was able to. Health kind of betrayed him there. Cade McIntyre's second year for him. So I think there's reasons to be optimistic about
Blake
this
Smith
moving
back.
forward. What's that?
Blake Smith back too.
Blake Smith back. That's definitely a guy who you kind of forgetting about. You kind of thought maybe he could be a portal candidate, but obviously as of December 18th, haven't heard anything from him. Got to assume he's back. So yeah, there's reasons to be, I think, a little more feeling good about things in that group. And like you said, Jojon Finley elevated up to co-OC, so probably you'd imagine a key role is going to be carved out for that tight end room if he has any say in the matter. So reasons to be optimistic. I think Bauer Sharp's going to be a nice add here. I'm curious who actually ends up being tight end one when it's all said and done. That's going to be a very interesting battle because, Devon Mitchell is this guy who we all think the world of, but he is a kid, obviously, going to be literally a high school senior in terms of age. You brought in Bauer Sharp. Is it Caden Helms? I mean, it's going to be an interesting battle whenever we get there, so I'm excited to see how that shakes out. But a lot better looking group than and a lot better feel on it right now than maybe you had, just a few weeks ago when the season ended. So we'll see how it shakes out. But reason to be optimistic, I think, right now. Speaking of reason to be optimistic, more good news for Oklahoma. We talked about last week, obviously, Danny Stutzman comes back, Billy Bowman comes back. More good news for Oklahoma on that front. DeJoun Terry, Jacob Lacey, pair of defensive tackles, both announced they would be returning to Oklahoma next season. Obviously, both these guys transferred in. Terry from Tennessee, Lacey from Notre Dame. Both guys had truncated summers, if you want to call it that. Terry came in the summer. He was a late transfer after spring was already over. Jacob Lacey, obviously, you didn't think he was maybe going to be available this season, dealt with the blood clotting issue, things like that. He ended up being able to go, was a key element on that defensive line. Same for DeJoun Terry, key element on that defensive line. And now they're both back. And to have these veteran guys, Tom, going into the SEC, it's huge. It's huge here, right? I mean, you need bulk, veterans, all of that. This is a big win for Oklahoma to get both these guys.
Yeah, it's literally massive. Jacob Lacey played the most snaps among all defensive interior linemen for Oklahoma this season. DeJoun Terry was third in snaps. Their tackle numbers won't necessarily jump off the page, but DeJoun Terry was very effective against the run. Jacob Lacey made some key plays. He had that fourth quarter sack, I believe, against Texas. He had a big role in that goal line stand in that game too. And just guys that they're coming back for their sixth season. They're taking advantage of that extra year of eligibility. And look, Jacob Lacey started 11 games this season. DeJoun Terry started 4. They were obviously key parts of that rotation up front. And that's with, like you said, the truncated off seasons for them. These are guys that they could have gone and tried to test the NFL waters after their 5th year. Both of them, I believe, went through senior day festivities before that TCU game. But both opted to come back because I think they understand that not only does Oklahoma need some, veterans and some, just effective big bodies on that defensive line as it moves to the SEC, but these are guys that could benefit from a full offseason working with Jerry Schmidt and that strength and conditioning program. Like you said, DeJoun Terry got here in May, so he was only around for a few months before the season began. Jacob Lacey was out of commission for a while because of those blood clots in his lungs, and we weren't even sure he'd play again. So for them to have the kind of impact that they did, despite the unusual off seasons they did, I think says a lot about what their potential could be moving forward next year. So for Oklahoma to bring back those two guys, and obviously Ethan Downs at defensive end said he's coming back for his senior season too. So that's just a good veteran core up front to kind of not just, help this defense keep carrying the torch, in year 3 under Brent Venables as they continue to try to improve, but also help kind of be mentors and, be a bridge for some of these younger guys that are coming in, because that 2024 class looks really good up on the defensive line with, guys like David Stone and Jaden Jackson. So I think this is huge for Oklahoma. Obviously, not kind of the level of players of Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman coming back, but to be able to bring back these veterans who have played a lot of snaps and a lot of snaps at the Power 5 level. Because like you said, Dejon Terry came in from Tennessee. Before that, he was at Kansas. Jacob Lacey played at Notre Dame, which is an independent school, but they always play a Power 5 schedule. So they have a lot of experience going against Power 5 offensive lines, and that's what Oklahoma needs, because that schedule next year is unforgiving.
Yeah, and it speaks to the faith that these guys have in Brent Venables and the culture that he has built here, because that was the book on Venables and Dabo Swinney at Clemson, that they constantly seem to get guys to come back for that senior season, for that extra year, guys who could go to the NFL. They think about it and they say, no, I'm better off playing another year at Clemson. Oklahoma never seemed to have that. I'm sure most of you fans would agree. Guys on the fence seemed like they always just went, and it was hard to have any stability. Or it's like, man, if we could have just had this guy back, or guys go early. You think of Ronnie Perkins, guys like that who probably could have stayed another year. They decided to go ahead and go for it. And maybe who knows what their crew would have been like if they had waited. Who knows what OU defense could have been if they had come back. Now you're getting that with Stutzman, Bowman, like you said, Ethan Downs. These two guys, we're still waiting on Woody Washington. But if you could find a way to get him in the mix as well, I mean, that's veteran NFL caliber players at every position of your defense. That's big time. And that's how you win and sustain, is, building, having that camaraderie, that stability, that consistency that Oklahoma hasn't had for a long time, especially on defense. So to have this many pieces back on a defense that was solid, obviously, and much improved from the previous year, the reasons to be optimistic are pretty obvious. So a lot to like right now. A lot to feel good about.
Yeah, but when we spoke to Brent Venables after practice the other day, he said, look, all five of these guys that are coming back, they're coming back because they feel like they're on a mission. They have a goal in mind, and they probably felt like they missed some opportunities this season, and now the chance to kind of make a statement in the program's first year in the SEC. They want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of what Brent Venables has been building and is continuing to build at Oklahoma. And, they feel like that can be their legacy here.
Right.
So like you said, getting all five of those guys back is huge, especially, two guys at the defensive tackle spot where, again, the SEC is a line of scrimmage league. You need to be able to control that point of attack, and to bring back two massive defensive interior linemen like that is great for this defense.
Absolutely is. So from guys who are coming back to one that we're still trying to figure out in Tawee Walker. So we talked about Tawee last week a little bit. We got the open practice. It caught our eye right away. Tawee Walker's over there with the running backs. What gives? That's interesting. He tweeted the bowling emoji. We talked about this on the show last week. Brent Venables was asked about it on Friday, as you'd expect. The exact quote from Brent Venables said he's going to look in the portal and then, quote, he's more than welcome to come back, end quote. So the door is open, it would seem, for Tawee to return. It's still not really clear on, is Oklahoma going to offer him a scholarship to come back? What exactly? Because if they're not, he's not coming back, because he's going to get one somewhere else. What do you just make of the situation? Because I think a lot of fans are confused about it as well, and I am, frankly, a little bit too, so I don't blame anybody. Tawee's still on this team for now. He's going to play in the Alamo Bowl against Arizona. He was productive this year. The fans really liked him. Oklahoma just went and got a running back in the portal. So, I don't blame anybody for kind of being a little confused as, why not just give this guy a scholarship and keep him around? What do you kind of make of the situation right now with Tawee? Because it is strange. It is a little unusual. Yeah,
it's a little funky. I think, look, I don't think Tawee is technically in the portal yet. He announced his plans to, but I don't think he's actually appeared in there yet. But so it's not unusual that he's still with the team right now, because, like we mentioned on the last show, Josh Ellison did this last season. He announced his plans to transfer back in December, stuck with the team through the bowl game, and then hit the portal in January before going to Memphis. So that part of it's not too unusual. It's just, look, I don't know if Oklahoma. I don't know if Oklahoma knows if it has a scholarship available for Tawee Walker, just because of needs that it has at other spots. Like, these coaches all have a they have a map, so to speak. Like they have a certain number of scholarships that they can allocate to each position, and they have some needs to address. So they're still trying to sort that through. Like Brent Venables said when we spoke to him, I guess the week before last, they want to add probably 10 guys from the transfer portal. They want to bring in, 27, 28 high school signees this week. So I think they're still trying to figure out all the math, and they don't know if they can offer Tawee Walker a scholarship right now. I don't know if that's going to be in the cards at all for him, but it makes sense for him, given what he showed on the field this week, to bet on himself. And it's something that he did coming out of high school, going to the JUCO route, even after being away from football for a little bit. He bet on himself, and it paid off in his opportunity to come to Oklahoma, and he made the most of it. I mean, there were parts of this season where he was their most reliable running back. He finished the year as their second leading rusher. Obviously Gavin Sawchuk kind of took the baton and ran with it the second half of the season. But, Tawee Walker has shown himself very capable of being not just an FBS caliber running back, but a Power 5 quality back. I don't know if he'd necessarily be a starter at, a Power 5 school moving forward, but I think he certainly earned himself an opportunity to earn a scholarship from some quality program. So we'll see what happens with him. I don't think we're going to get any clarity until after the bowl game, obviously, in early January maybe, before that transfer window closes. But it's definitely kind of just a weird situation, especially because when Brent Venables came over for his post-practice scrum, he's like, I'm going to save everybody some time. I'm not going to talk about anybody that's not here. Yeah. Well, Tawee's still here, even though he said he's going to transfer. So let's talk about him. But it's definitely something to monitor because, like you said, they brought in a running back. They're bringing back guys like Gavin Sawchuk, Javonte Barnes, Caleb Hicks. They got good running backs coming in with this 2024 class, and Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson too. It's a log jam in that room. And obviously Tawee Walker's a guy who has experience and has shown that he can do it. But it's just a matter of making all the pieces of the puzzle fit.
Yeah, I'm kind of just in the Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance, basically, with Tawee right now. I don't expect him to be back, but the door's open, clearly, and he's still around, and who knows? I mean, in the next couple of weeks of practice, maybe at San Antonio, he plays well in the Alamo Bowl, and even if it's on a scholarship, maybe they could set him up on the NIL side of things that it's still worth it for him to stick around. I don't know. Like you said, they're not hurting for running backs by any means. If you get Barnes healthy with what Gavin Sawchuk did and Tatum coming in, Robinson coming in, you already added UT Martin, Sam Franklin, who we've talked about on the show. You have lots of bodies and options, whether Tawee's back or not. But the reality is, and it's what most fans are saying, and they're right, is that Tawee played this year and played well for a long stretch. And for a long while was their most reliable guy. He was running back one for like a stretch there in the middle of the season. So we'll see if he ends up sticking around. I would lean he probably doesn't, obviously, but you never know. You never know. We get to see him play one more time, which is nice here coming up in a couple weeks in San Antonio. Looking forward to that here before too long. On the recruiting side of things, more ads, more good news for Oklahoma. It's a very positive show today. Eddy Pierre-Louis, welcome aboard. This is a guy that Colin and I have talked about a lot over the last several weeks. This guy Oklahoma's been targeting from Tampa Catholic in Tampa, Florida, which is the same high school that Lewis Carter went to. The linebacker is a freshman right now, who I'm a big fan of. Lewis Carter's a freak of nature. This guy's a freak of nature, too. So whatever they're doing at Tampa Catholic, keep going out there and finding these guys because this guy is not normal. Tom's going to get into some of the specifics with his other exploits in other sports in just a second. But real quick, if you're unfamiliar with him, 6'3", 335 is what we have Matt. He's an interior offensive lineman, so he's going to probably play guard at Oklahoma unless they want to move him around. Number 12 interior offensive lineman in the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's a 4-star. He's a top 50 player in Florida. He's a top 250 player or so, give or take, in the entire class. Obviously, you're coming off Caden Green leaving. You add one guy through the portal, Spencer Brown from Michigan State. They're going to add more than likely on the offensive line through the portal. But you bring a guy in, Tom, who, again, is another option for you. There's lots of guys offensive line room, and this kid is a freak in a lot of ways, and it feels like there's a chance he could factor in maybe sooner rather than later another nice get here on the recruiting side of things for Bill Bedenbaugh in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see like how the personnel shakes out by the spring or the summer. But just looking at him and like you said, 6'3", 330, massive guy, just an athletic freak, ran a 12.97 in the 100-meter.
That's absurd.
His size is just absurd. Like if you've seen the video, it's just doesn't seem real. But just another guy who has a high ceiling and just like a great frame, and not saying he's going to come in and start right away at left guard or right guard or wherever, but he's a guy that you could see him being one of those impact freshmen that kind of works his way into the rotation and maybe works his way into the starting lineup eventually. We'll see how his development goes once he gets on campus, but he has that kind of ceiling, it feels like.
Yeah, and you saw, obviously, like I said, he went to the same high school that Lewis Carter went to. These guys were teammates not that long ago. And then you saw David Stone, who obviously is down there in Florida, tweeting at him. He was in the car with him, posted a photo saying, we got to get this guy. So you kind of – other guys who are dudes kind of know guys who are dudes. And David Stone, who obviously is the ringleader of this class, basically he's the golden goose here. The fact that he was putting such a full court press on social media that we need this guy, I think it says a lot about him. So I'm excited to see where he fits in down the road. I've seen a lot of people, of course, on our message boards kind of speculating like, this guy's such an athlete. Could he move around? Probably could. Now, you need guards. We talked about that before we started recording. You need guards, so you probably don't need to or really want to right now, but you certainly could. If down the road you wanted to move him on defense or something, he probably could handle it because the guy is not your typical O lineman in terms of the speed and the ability to move around. He's something, and I'm excited to see what he looks like whenever he gets here in due time. So to wrap up, Tom, a little bit of hoops on the way out. This team's really good. Obviously, we knew that going in. They crushed Green Bay despite a lethargic start. I mean, it was a weird game because we were both there on Saturday night. It was 21-20 with like 5 minutes to play until halftime. And then they called timeout. Porter chewed him out a little bit, but he said credit to them. They responded to it. They didn't pout. They just got back out there and fixed what I was yelling at them about. And they absolutely rolled after that, ended up winning by 33 points it was, 34 points it was. They're 10-0. There's only 4 undefeated teams left. They're one of them. Is it fair to get excited, Tom? In your estimation, is it fair to get excited? Because this team is playing really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely fair to get excited. I mean, they just moved into the top 10 in the AP poll that came out today. Checked in at number 7. First time that they've been ranked in the top 10 under Porter Moser. First time since, I believe, February 22nd, 2021 that they've been ranked this high. Plenty of reason to get excited. That game against Green Bay the other night was a little uncharacteristic for them out the gate. It was a late start. It was graduation weekend, and it just seems like it took them a while to adjust to what Green Bay does defensively, which is kind of pack the paint, and that takes away from this team's strength because this is a drive and dish type of team. Javian McCollum and Milos Uzan love to get into the paint and kick it out or, get a little floater or attack the basket. And you just can't do that against the kind of defense that Green Bay was playing. So you saw a lot of like uncharacteristically stagnant offensive possessions for stretches there in that first 14 minutes. And then Green Bay gets within 1. Porter Moser quickly calls a timeout. And then, like you said, man, they just kind of flipped a switch. They went on a 15-0 run to close the half. Forced 7 turnovers, had a block shot, and held Green Bay to 0 of 3 shooting over the final 6 minutes of that half. Took a 16-point lead in the break. And then they followed that up with a 22-0 run over a 7-minute stretch in the second half, led by as many as 40 at one point, and just absolutely throttled Green Bay. Did what they were supposed to do against an overmatched opponent. This team plays good defense, man. Offense, I think there's still some concerns about the offense. It's not a bad offense by any means, but I think there's some concerns about their outside shooting if they can't get good ball movement. But they're playing really good, and they're about to have their biggest test of the season. They're going to go to Charlotte. They're going to play number 11 North Carolina in a quote unquote neutral game that is just
not exactly
a couple hours from UNC's campus in the Jump Mean Invitational. But man, that's going to be a fun game to watch. Wednesday night, 8:00 Central Time on ESPN. look, they've got three or four quality wins. That USC win looks less impressive as the days go by, just because USC's kind of struggled, even though they got a lot of talent. But man, they've got 3 quad 2 wins on the record right now, 3-0 in those games. This is going to be a quad 1 opportunity, and really, an opportunity for this team to make a statement. They've been one of the biggest surprises in college basketball this season, but if they can go to Charlotte and beat UNC, even though they're ranked ahead of UNC right now, I would find it hard to see them as favorites going into this game. I don't know if the line's been set yet, but if they can go and beat UNC in Charlotte, man, this team could make some noise in the Big 12, it feels like.
Yeah, not that Green Bay is any good, because they're not. Iowa State beat Green Bay by 40 or whatever it was as well. But the fact that they could come out and be so flat and play their C game, D game maybe even, for that long and still just turn it on and blow them out of the water, it says a lot about this team, because, the last couple of years under Porter, they just weren't able to just crush teams like they are this year. And it says a lot about just how much of a different place this roster's in. And we've talked about it several times, but it really is amazing how quickly they've turned it around from last year. It's unrecognizable. The brand of basketball, the level of talent and athletes on the court, it's like they're playing a different sport than they were last year. And like you said, North Carolina up next. Obviously, UNC is UNC. They're a little bit scrambling. They got a little bit, back into a corner right now. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to UConn and Kentucky. Not exactly a couple of losses that you're just going to be beating yourself up over, but the North Carolina, they expect to win those games. They've slipped down to number 11 in the AP poll, so Oklahoma is the higher-ranked team. I don't know anybody who would have guessed that, a couple months ago. But it's 7 versus 11. Like you said, it's in Charlotte, so not a road game, but it is a road game. It'll be all North Carolina fans in there. It'll be packing in the house that Michael Jordan kind of built there with Charlotte. Obviously, we need the owner. Could be a fun game. And if Oklahoma wins that, you should win your last 2, certainly, and you should be 13-0 going into Big 12 play pretty comfortably if you can find a way to win that game on Wednesday. So I think a lot of OU fans, obviously OU's a football school. That's where all the attention is. I think a lot of OU fans are starting to realize how good the basketball team is, and I think Wednesday night, for a lot of people in Oklahoma, is going to be their introduction to OU one way or another, because I think everybody, whether you're a little fan or a big fan of OU basketball, you're going to be tuned in on Wednesday because they're playing North Carolina. They're in the top 10. They're undefeated. Let's see how good they are. And if they go beat North Carolina, it's really, you can start to really get big eyes about what the team could do. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Wednesday. Biggest test so far, by far. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily. North Carolina, I think they're just behind Oklahoma and Ken Palm. I think they're at 20th. Oklahoma, I think, is at 19th as of this morning. Oklahoma's top 10 in net rankings. North Carolina, I believe, is 37th. So it's comfortably a quad 1 game. Look, Oklahoma's going to have its hands full in this game. Like you said, even though North Carolina's had a couple losses back-to-back now, they're a very good team. They're going to have their hands full. We'll see how Oklahoma responds and what will be a hostile environment against a really good team. But look, even if Oklahoma loses this game, I don't think there's any reason for fans to that are just starting to pay attention to jump off the bandwagon by any means, because this is an NCAA tournament caliber game. And it's probably going to feel like that, as if
second weekend, probably caliber, maybe even. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those games where the higher seed is closer to home, so they're going to have a lot better crowd.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what I anticipate is going to feel like Wednesday night. So I don't think fans should get discouraged if Oklahoma does not beat North Carolina. The fact that they'd be 10-1 and really opportunity to go 12-1 easily heading into Big 12 play. You're only a few wins off of what you did all of last season. This team is so much better than it was last year. And I think more fans are starting to realize that. And, I'm excited to see kind of what the crowd is going to start looking like at Lloyd Noble as, we get into Big 12 play and the opponents are a little bit more enticing and worth coming to see this Oklahoma team play against.
Yeah, even if they don't win on Wednesday, but obviously if they do, that Iowa State game, January 6th, football's over. It's a Saturday, Big 12 opener. think it'll probably be a pretty good crowd in there at the LNC. I think fans are starting to appreciate what Porter's done, this turnaround. It's fun times right now for OU basketball, fun times. All right, I think that's it. Fortunately, we're not going to be in Charlotte on Wednesday with signing day. We'll hang back here in Norman. Brent Venables press conference Wednesday morning at 10:30. Keep an eye out for that. Obviously, coverage on the site from Tom and James Jackson as well. Of course, I'll have the video, the full press conference up on YouTube shortly after it finishes. Keep an eye out for that and hear what Brent Venables has to say about all these guys that finally signed. You can finally hear him talk about David Stone and Taylor Tatum and Zion Kearney and all these guys in the class, Danny Okoye, on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. And then we'll be back on Thursday to recap all the latest from signing day, what Hoops did against North Carolina on Wednesday night, and whatever else happens in the transfer portal and on the recruiting trail and whatever else between now and then. Hand up. We had a little bit of mishap at the beginning of this show. Got about 10 minutes in before we realized we weren't recording. Thankfully, Tom noticed. So if the beginning of the show felt weird because we were doing everything a second time.
Felt like deja vu.
A little embarrassed by that. That's completely on me. But I think we did okay. I think we persevered. I think if you didn't know, you would have never known. It would have been. I hope. Unless we get some comments that are saying like, "What? Why does this feel weird? Why does this feel strange?"
Why is Tom laughing during the intro?
Yeah, first time we ever done that. Hopefully the last time. That was bad. So that's it for now. And I'll work on things and I'll hit the gym. I'll get Schmitty built and I'll be back on Thursday, ready to be better, do better. That's it. We'll be back Thursday. See you guys then. For Tom Green, I'm Josh Callaway. See you guys Thursday for the next edition of the Sooners Illustrated podcast.